Welcome to the GLAC studio. This is Gomathi, Sankaran, founder, CEO, the guiding light, art company building bright futures through art. Today, in the season 2, second episode of the GLAC's What Next series, Change Management in Practice, we are going all the way to Brisbane, Australia, to meet someone who's faced change not just at the career level but also at a personal level. Someone who understands change at a deeper level than we can imagine. You see, change management is not just a subject matter for discussion at an MBA forum or a management forum or a project or any institution that we are with. Change starts personally as well, and it could be affecting our career. We are meeting someone who's faced just that at a personal level and has also had to let go of many things, including her qualifications from the past, to reach where she has reached today. We are meeting PAIGE KRYSTAL WILCOX, an intentional storyteller, an author, a social activist, and whatnot. Without much ado, let's get on to the show and understand change management in practice directly from PAIGE KRYSTAL WILCOX. PAIGE WILCOX, welcome to the GLACE What Next series, Change Management in Practice. I am super happy to be interviewing you. I have been following you for quite some time. There's a lot that I want to unpack and ask about you, but before I get into a role, I think it's good that you share a little bit about yourself for viewers who are looking at you for the first time or listening to you for the first time.
All right, thank you very much, and it's great to see you again and chat with you again. I was so honoured to be asked to be on this. So my name is PAIGE KRYSTAL WILCOX, and I am an author. I also am a student coordinator for medical students, and I just happen to be a woman who was assigned male at birth. So I went through a gender transition about 20 years ago, and now I am very comfortable in my own skin, and that, although that's not everything about me, it does have an impact on all the different areas of my life, which is why I really wanted to share that. I was previously involved with a lot of social advocacy, and I got quite burnt out very quickly. Tried it again, same thing happened, and what I've worked out is that I really want to help make the world a better place, and how I can do that best is through my writing. And that's something that I find creatively fulfilling, but also I can do it in a way that keeps social impact in mind, and then I can also protect my own well-being, which I couldn't really when I was putting myself on different stages here and there. And I'm now in a place where I very much limit the things that I do. So, for example, I would only do one sort of interview like this every week or two. I wouldn't be doing it every day. That's me.
That's an awesome summarization. You put it so subtly, and maybe it's with experience that, you've gone through a huge change. It is not that easy for many to even say it out loud, even to their dear ones.
Yeah.
Would it be okay sharing with the viewers? How was it? And what were the primary challenges?
So this was going through a gender change. Is that to be specific?
Yeah.
Yep.
And also in the light of your life, because there is your school or college, your career. So going
Yes.
through this is a personal change. It is so private, but at the same time, you're also engaging with the society. I think this
Yes.
context is very important for a lot of us to learn, even for me.
Absolutely. Yes. And because it was such a visible thing, of course, every single person in my life at the time had to know about it. Or if I didn't want them to know about it, I actually had to leave them behind. And that is a very difficult thing to think about. But some people will not support you. And there were some people who didn't support me. There were people who didn't understand and didn't want to. And I tried to hold on to them for a long time, but I realized that really I needed to surround myself for my own protection, surround myself with more of the people who were willing to learn and listen to me and accept me as I was. So with all of those changes, there were a lot of challenges, and that goes for any change. I hate change overall. I find it very uncomfortable. I think most people do. And if I can work out a nice plan for change, that helps me do much better. And I have taken that through all of my life. So specifically with my gender transition, I planned out all of the steps that I was going to take, worked out almost like a to-do list, and took each hurdle one at a time. So, for example, the first step 20 years ago was firstly making the appointment to talk with a doctor about it for the first time. So I did that. I had to see a few other doctors. I won't talk about that because that's really more of the same. Once we decided it was right for me, then I had to go through steps like going on medication, and that was a very confronting experience for me because here I was going in looking like a man and asking for a female hormone. And I did get reactions. I got reactions from the people who were serving me who weren't expecting someone who looked like me to be wanting what was essentially a contraceptive pill. So I had to do that a few times because I looked quite male back then. And it was the hormones that were needed to help feminize my body and my skin and my face. And that's not everyone's story. That's what I needed to feel safe and comfortable with me. So I had to do that a few times, and I got better at that. It was a challenge. People were not always kind, and people can say a lot with their face. You can see when people show disgust or something really negative like that, really strong things.
Yeah.
And I really had to dissociate a little bit. So I had to remove myself from it sometimes and make myself blind, really, so that I couldn't see their reaction, which is not the healthiest way to go about it. But I didn't know better at the time. So from there, then I had the social aspect. So I had to change my name, because my name was very male, and I won't mention what it is, but it didn't feel right for me. It was very important for me to choose a name that felt right, and Paige was that name. and Crystal, the second name. And I can tell you why I chose those two names. Paige, I chose in one of the origins of the name Paige, it means young child. And I always wanted to keep a young playfulness in my personality. That was very important. And I can say today, I've definitely kept that.
You are Paige.
And with Crystal, I wanted to be crystal clear that this was my authentic self. This is who I was, and I wanted to express myself more honestly to the world. Before it was like a mask that I was wearing, and I was letting off the mask and letting people see me. Now, people in my social circle, I had to tell them about this, and of course there were people that struggled with it, who tried very hard but just had a hard time. And there were people who just didn't want to acknowledge who I was and rejected my identity.
Yep.
In my position, I couldn't feel a difference between those two people. All I saw was people calling me the wrong thing, saying things that hurt my feelings. For me, I couldn't see their motive or whether they meant to hurt me or not. So I was just hurt by anything that people said that was negative. And I think a lot of people in my situation would have been like that. And it has taken many years to get to a point where I can choose to help people learn and help educate people, and work out if they want to learn or if they're just trying to hurt me. If they're just trying to hurt me, I just have to let them go.
Mm.
They're not necessarily a bad person, but they're a bad person for me.
Mm.
If people are struggling and they do want to know, I have so many resources now that I've written, so I can direct them to that, and they can read a little bit about it, because I have realized over the years that a lot of people don't understand what the word transgender means, and a lot of people are also scared to type it into Google because they're scared of what will come up. And so with that in mind, I'm like, oh, okay, yes, people think of me as an adults only thing that in a lot of social circles is taboo. You shouldn't talk about it.
Yep.
But I exist 24/7, and I had an entire childhood. So you know what? That means I'm not adults only. I was me this whole time. You just couldn't see it.
Yeah.
So to tell me that my childhood was adults only or an adults theme, that's wrong. So I'm really wanting to work with my writing and focus more on my writing, bringing characters like me into people's vision, into their conversations as just someone like them who has just taken a different path to get here. So it hasn't been easy, and I have faced a lot of criticism from different people, and I did become quite unwell for a while with my mental health, because all of that just had a huge effect on me, and I didn't know how to deal with it. Fortunately, my partner pushed me to seek medical help, and I did, and that's been a separate journey. I won't talk about that here because I have spoken about that on a different podcast. But I will say that there is never any shame in seeking help to assist you through a change. It doesn't matter what that change is. Sometimes we can go through a change on our own, but a lot of times we can find someone to help us who's been through something similar or who's knowledgeable about that thing. and they can actually help us get through that change without so much discomfort. You'd be familiar with the label mentor, I suppose.
Yeah.
So some of the advocacy work I did was for an organisation called Out for Australia, and their main mission is a mentoring program for LGBTIQ professionals. So what that does is you have someone who's established in their career. They match up with someone who's a student or who wants to go into that career.
Yeah.
And they just catch up maybe once a month or something, whatever works for both of them. And they can talk through things. They can get tips about the specific field they want. Or maybe they'll find out that that industry is not something they want to go into.
For the viewers, it will be good to know what this organization is. There's a lot of mentorship available, especially for students who want to build their career, but this seems to be very specific. If you could repeat that for our viewers, I'm also noting it down. The name of the institution?
Yes. So it is specifically an Australian organisation, so their focus is Australians, but it's Out for Australia. And it's a mentoring organisation. So their main focus has been a mentoring program to match students and young professionals with people who are established, just to help them navigate those early stages, especially because they have that specific additional layer of being in the LGBTIQ community, and they don't want to start their career and have to leave part of themselves at home. So it's about working out what's the best way to come to work, to still be yourself and still be professional. Because it's people like me fumbled through it without help, and some of that was because there wasn't much help available 20 years ago with that. But part of it was also me wanting to be independent and wanting to do everything on my own and not knowing about any support that was available. So visibility of support is so important. There are so many organisations across the world now that are doing great work in different social areas, but often the people who need that support don't know that it's there.
I think that is the main challenge. When you were going through this phase, personal phase, which career level were you in? Were you a student then? Were you already starting out to work? Or
so I started when I first saw doctors to transition. I was in film, television, and theatre acting school, and I was near the end of my studies there. And I waited until after graduation to completely transition. So for the last little bit, I was going to college and dressing up as a man, and then part-time I was myself. And that was very difficult because I had to change my voice and everything and flip in and out. But it was just too hard to go through that full change in front of everyone that I was studying with. That situation is more rare now, I feel, because whether you're a student or whether you're a professional, like if you are in your working career, a lot of organisations have gender transition policies. So you can work with your HR department or with your student advisors on how to keep doing your study or keep doing your work and go through those changes, because you shouldn't have to take half a year of your life out or something like that. That, you know, so for me, because I didn't have that visible support, and all around me, I saw very negative depictions of transgender people. So I thought, okay, I need to hide this, otherwise I won't get a job. And I faced some difficulties with that because all of the study that I had done up to that point was in a male name. So I had to ignore all of that and pretend it didn't exist. So what happened was, with all of this training, and I had done some IT support training, acting training, I had to throw that out, and the only employment I could get was cleaning, and it was the lowest paid. I don't think minimum wage is that low anymore, but it was very low paid by the hour, and it was casual work. So if I was sick, I didn't get paid. If they didn't have enough work, they could just tell me not to come in and they didn't have to pay me. So it was not a good situation.
No.
And I did that for a few years. I had to do that for a few years, do some courses on the side in my new name. And then I was able to get some data entry work.
Okay.
I did that for a while, did some things on the side. While I was doing that data entry work, I was doing some professional development, trying to improve my prospects. Managed to get a job at a university as an administrative assistant. And through there, I kept trying and trying to develop professionally and to look out for opportunities. And that's when I started to become very, very busy because I studied training, development and design. So I was working full-time for the university during the day, coordinating medical students and helping with examinations, different administrative tasks. And then in the evenings and on the weekends, I would be designing and delivering training. And I did that for quite a while. And strangely, I got very exhausted. And I stopped delivering training. I've done some courses here and there, designed some different courses, and I am doing a webinar later this year, but I do very little training now. I started to feel guilty about not helping the community, not helping people like me who didn't know how to be themselves at work, who didn't know how to be both, be themselves and be professional. And that should be possible for all of us. We are all deserving of a place in a workplace. And I think we still have some discussions to go in most workplaces about how we can be a bit more adaptable to that. Because not everyone should be in a suit in an office. So there are so many different elements to it. You know, you can be professional and have tattoos or a different color hair. You know, there are so many things that workplaces are just at the start of chatting about. And I think we're in for an exciting decade of really positive change in the workplace. A lot of people I've spoken to are doing amazing things, and I feel excited and energized anytime I talk to these people about the work that they're doing and what motivates them. So I guess my message to anyone who is going through a hard time with being themselves at work is know that people are trying to change things, and try to connect with someone who has been through a similar situation, because those people are there. The people will come and go. Like, it's not the same people who will be available all the time. So, for example, at the moment, I don't have availability to help support people because I have so many things that I'm doing. But at other times in my life, I will. But it's really just a matter of, you can reach out and connect with people. That's all I'm going to say about that.
That's a lot. It's so inspiring, Paige. I usually ask this question, what motivates you? But for you, during that phase when you were having to let go of all the career that you have built in another name, and then be that cleaner and starting all over, those, if I may say, maybe, darker periods when you do not know where you're heading. I think a lot of us struggle through some darker periods. What motivated you to go on in that period?
That is a good question. I think, I did go through periods of depression where I didn't have much motivation, and I did have very bad self-esteem. But I think I had enough people in my life who I was not wanting to impress, but I think sometimes it's hard to express things like this. I think that because of the environment that I was in as a child, one of my very strong values, an unshakable value, is if you can help someone, you should. And sometimes you need to sacrifice what you have to help someone who has less than you. And most of the time we don't know who has less than us. We can make so many assumptions about people that are often incorrect. But I think with that in my mind, and knowing that I could do better, knowing that I was capable of doing more, that really pushed me. But I did also have some people in my life who said, I think you should be doing more. I think there are more opportunities that you should be looking for. And something that's very important to note is that you can't expect other people to do it for you. It's nice if people can help you, but you can't expect that someone will be able to pick you up and lift you out of a situation. You're probably going to have to make the first step, even if that is a step of putting your hand up. Say I'll use the analogy of I'm stuck in a hole and I can't get out by myself. Putting your hand up, calling out and saying, is someone able to help me up? It's a simple, humbling thing because a lot of people are afraid to ask for help, but it is important sometimes to ask for help. And I will say, I have found that it is important that you never ask for something unless you're prepared that the person might say no. So you might ask someone, they say no, ask someone else. Don't be disheartened. You don't necessarily know why they've said no. It's not, them saying no is probably not about you. It's about whatever's going on in their life that you don't know about. Because I know I have had to say no to some people who asked me because I was in a situation where I was struggling to look after myself. So I definitely couldn't look after anyone else.
Mm.
But then there were other times when someone reached out just at the right time and I said, yes, I can help you.
Mm.
Let's have a conversation. We chatted and I'm like, okay, this is someone that you should talk to. This person can probably help you.
Mm.
And if they hadn't reached out to me, they wouldn't have made that connection. And I have had that same situation as well, where I don't know if you hear the word self-made very much, but I don't believe that anyone is self-made. We are all helped along by our connections.
Totally.
And sometimes it's that we're connected to money. Sometimes it's because we're connected to powerful people. Sometimes it's because we're good at networking and we've gone and had discussions with a lot of people. So when opportunities come up, they think about us. And I'm just going to stop there. So I was just starting to waffle on there. And
yeah, I can see how you've built your motivation around and taken help mostly.
yeah.
You're right when you say, the word self-made sounds, sounds interesting, but it is overrated. Really, we are all together in this. We need each other's help. That is very nicely put. Tell me how you think the landscape has changed for you and also for people around you due to the COVID.
Yes. So COVID has been the worst and the best. It has been everything.
Yeah.
I think we can both, or all of us can really acknowledge how bad it's been for most people, and it has created so much unpredictability. It has highlighted power imbalance and wealth that's not very evenly distributed. It has really highlighted a lot of societal problems. And for me, with my university work, it has made it really difficult because, so specifically working with medical students, we can't get doctors without first having students learning in the hospital. Because of the high risk and for a while limited access to personal protective equipment, when there were outbreaks, the hospitals would kick the students out, say, sorry, we don't have enough, we need to conserve our protective equipment for the staff who need to be here to deal with these patients. The students aren't a risk we can take right now. So that sort of stuff happened very quickly, and different parts of the world have approached it in different ways. I can only speak for the hospital I work at, but they would make that decision very quickly, which would mean everyone involved in the teaching would either have their teaching cancelled or have to go online through things like Zoom. So very disruptive, very disruptive. And even now we're having that sort of situation where what you think is the situation today, tomorrow, it may be a new situation. And that is really difficult. And it's been a very long time. People are very tired, exhausted. Interpersonal issues are worse because all of us are a little bit worse at dealing with problems when we're not sleeping well or when we're tired. And unfortunately, problems that might be small and easily fixed normally become bigger. So that's the bad. And, being scared to be in certain spaces. I'm kind of used to that. I'm used to feeling unsafe in a lot of spaces, but it's kind of become everywhere for a while. I feel a lot better now that I'm fully vaccinated. My partner's fully vaccinated. Our parents are fully vaccinated. But there's still a bit of fear about other people we're connected to who haven't had access to the vaccine yet, and then people who don't want it.
Yeah.
With all that in mind, it has also been a fantastic opportunity for me. And I will explain. So I have done a lot of professional networking in person at events in my town and across Australia, in all the capital cities. That has never come natural to me, and it's very exhausting. And with that kind of professional networking, to work a room, as they say, you walk around and you have very superficial conversations with many different people, and hopefully some of them remember who you are, and hopefully you remember some of who they are. And it's better than nothing, but for me, it's not a great experience of professional networking. With this pandemic, it has enabled me to step out of my comfort zone online. So what I've done is I've searched for people who are doing work that I'm interested in. I have found them on LinkedIn predominantly, and I reach out to them and I ask if they want to connect and have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I have had some rejections. I have had some very rude people who assume that I'm trying to sell them something. But that's not a reflection on me. That's the people they've been dealing with. And I've tried to remove myself emotionally, that it's not that they're rejecting me. It's just that they've had negative experiences and they don't want to have one. Fortunately, there have been so many people who've been wanting to connect and have needed to connect in new ways because of the pandemic. I have had, in the last month, beautiful conversations with people across Australia, across the United States, now in Denmark, New Zealand, I think, and I've got conversations coming up in Canada. And we all have things in common. We've all had great conversation. I am limited to people who speak English. That's a limitation I have. But apart from that, if I can reach out to them online and they're happy to talk to me, we can connect. And I have learnt so many things and I've become more confident. I probably couldn't even speak as confidently during this interview if I hadn't have had my last month of these conversations that have really energized me and helped me think about change in a different way.
Totally agree. And I must say, also for the benefit of the viewers, the way you approach LinkedIn, a lot of people do use the connect button and click on it and connect, but the way you wrote, it was genuine. For me, somebody that's never ever met you and probably only seen you on TED Talks, it was calling out and it was sounding genuine, concrete, that I wanted to reach out. I think it is a good strategy that one could follow on writing a little bit about yourself. What exactly are you trying to do? Like you said, are you trying to sell something? Or you want to connect, or connecting for another reason? If so, what is that reason? And being specific really puts you in a position where people are able to see you even before really seeing you. And I think you did a great job with that.
Thank you. Thank you. I worked very hard. I made some mistakes with the way I reached out to people initially. And I did start by just trying to connect.
Yeah,
and
click that button.
that that didn't work very well.
Yeah.
But I would say that eventually I
Mhm.
realized, okay, I need to make it clear what I want.
Mhm.
I needed the introductory message to be short and affirm what I'm not looking for.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
it, if you're reaching out to someone to sell something, I really think you should tell them that that's what you're doing.
Exactly. Be very specific.
Because I did get replies from a few people who assumed that I was going to try to sell something to them when I actually just wanted to hear them talk about their motivations. And it was because people had connected with them and, kind of pretended like they were interested in the connection. And then it became apparent that they were just selling something. And that has now happened to me.
Yeah.
And I was quite disappointed because I thought I had connected with someone, but they just wanted to sell their services to me. And they hadn't actually researched me at all because they were telling me these things. And I'm like, you're telling me stuff that I do already. Why would I pay you to do what I do? So
I
if you're
get a
doing
lot
it,
of that. Yes, I
yeah,
get such connections every day. And I
yeah,
feel so sorry because they could have done a bit of homework on what I'm doing. So
yeah.
maybe I would need that product, but the way you put it could be different. I totally agree. Yes. I will now get on with some generic questions. How does one go about identifying a career path or, yeah,
Yes.
life goal, if I may say so?
My ideas around this might sound a bit similar to what I've already been saying, but
Mhm.
you cannot undervalue connection. No, overvalue. I think I got that the wrong way around. Connection is so important. What I mean by that in this context is if you think you might like something, see if you can find someone who is already doing that. Have a
Mhm.
conversation with them. Find out why they do it, what their challenges are. You'll very quickly either increase your desire
Mhm.
to reach that and make it a goal, or you might be like, oh, actually those challenges, they're putting me off. If the
Mm.
challenges are putting you off and everything has challenges, I don't think you want it enough.
No.
If you really want something, even if there are challenges, you will push past those challenges.
Yeah. Point taken. Yes. You actually covered the next question also, the key
Oh,
challenges. Yes. So challenges would be there in the path. But if that is putting you off, maybe that's not the career that you want.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if you are on your path that you do want and you do face challenges, remember connections. Ask for advice or for help. If there's someone in the same industry,
Mm.
try to always be connected with some sort of mentor or coach in your industry that where it's not a relationship where you're supervising each other or paying each other. So make sure it's a relationship where you don't depend on each other for employment or something like that,
Mm.
because that can be an unhealthy power dynamic if you are asking for advice and support. So you want someone in the same industry
Mm.
who you can chat to about problems because you probably have similar challenges. You might not have exactly the same challenges, but challenges repeat. And so often in my life, I have gone through really difficult phases that I could have completely avoided if I had connected better with people previously. So now I think that's why it's so important to me, connection. And I think especially because of the pandemic, because of how separated people are, and because I'm getting better at connecting with people, I'm really seeing how valuable it is, and seeing all the little points in my life where I had challenges that wouldn't have been so big if I had connected with people who could help me out.
Totally agree. Yeah, awesome. The top 3 important things, according to you, one should be aware of before making any commitment to the change.
You definitely want to know everything you can about the industry or goal. See if there's evidence of other people having done that. Be aware that you may fail, and I don't think it's wise to ever go into something unless you are prepared to fail, because we can't guarantee anything. So you don't want to fail, but if you're going in and you're knowing, yes, if this does fail, I can come back and try something else. So give yourself permission to make mistakes. I don't know if that's quite 3 things. So really, again, connection. So understanding, seeing what other people have done, being prepared to fail, and so that if that does happen, you don't fall apart. Ooh, what's the 3rd thing? Just do it. You got to be bold. You got to be brave.
Yeah.
But that said, so at the moment, so I'm very passionate about pursuing my artistic dreams, my creative dreams through writing, and doing social advocacy that way. But I also highly value the financial stability of my job for the university. So the finance and considering your whole life and the impact on your whole life, that is something that you really need to consider before you go into it. So do you need to keep another job? How many hours do you need to do? How much are you going to have to invest time-wise and financially to pursue your dream? And how is that going to impact the rest of your life? Like, do you have a family? Is it going to impact your relationship with your family, your ability to be a parent? We all have our limitations. So it's important to really think about what your limitations are, what you need to keep moving forward, what responsibilities you have. So, for example, being a parent or a pet owner or something, where if you lose money, it directly affects other people. You've really, I think, got to think about all of that. So connection, preparing to fail, and considering the impact.
Awesome. I think we talked a lot about individuals, how they can face the challenges and so on. Organizations are also struggling with diversity and inclusion. There is a requirement, there is a mandate, and they try to fulfill. Most of the organizations go by, there are numbers that are important to them. They do that. They do a good job, but still it's not enough. So what, according to you, will be your suggestion for an organization, any organization, to provide a safe and inclusive work environment?
Certainly. Well, I'm a big believer in being proactive, and lifelong learning. In that context, an organization shouldn't reach this point where they're like, oh, we're fine now, we have met diversity. We've done it. we've fixed it. No, that doesn't ever happen, because we are all getting to understand each other better. We're all learning, and the situation changes. Technology changes things. That changes how we interact with things. You can really tell if an organization truly values diversity and inclusion by the little things that it does to make a workplace a safe environment for everyone. And there are lots of different ways that they can do that, but definitely one of them is to routinely reach out to all of their staff members to get anonymous feedback about how safe and comfortable they feel in the workplace, because that already is saying, hey, we don't know everything, but we want to know how to do the best by you. And the best way to do that is to ask. The reason it needs to be anonymous is because a lot of people, especially if you're in a minority group, you may feel or be made to feel that you can't ask for more, because you might just feel so lucky that you have a job there. And I've been in that situation where I really didn't ask for what I needed for my well-being, because I'm like, oh, well, I'm just lucky that they give me a job.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people like me who are unemployed and can't get a job. That is a terrible way to think about yourself. But a lot of us can't help it, because we have had that sort of messaging fed to us. So an organization really needs to ask anonymously, because especially for someone like me, me 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been confident to say it if they knew who I was. With that, it's also important to have like allyship programs, where people who are not in a minority group can learn more about the needs of people that they're happy to help.
Yeah.
That is really helpful, because especially if we go back to asking for feedback, those allies can ask for those same things on your behalf, which gives it a bit more power. I think also lots of visual things. For example, if a workplace is really wanting to get rid of bullying and harassment, for example, just some posters around that say we don't tolerate harassment and bullying, that's very helpful. But then also saying, if you are feeling bullied or harassed, you can come to us and we will do something about it. We will believe you. Not to just say, oh, well, we have these signs here, therefore nobody will bully you. So what you're saying is not true. So
that is pretty much, the scenario when people are trying to address this. So, it doesn't exist in our company or organization or educational institution, whatever. Yeah, it doesn't exist.
And I think this is probably just because of my history, but I have really highly valued my organization for putting on events where they get a diverse group, a diverse panel from the community who've agreed to answer questions, and employees are all welcome to attend the session to find out a bit about their different experiences at work, because that makes it more personal and it puts a specific face to that diversity. And I think it's natural then, once you've put a face to something, you can't just push it away as easily.
No.
But then there's also the fact that these people standing up there, they've said they're the people who are confident enough to do that.
Mm.
And they're probably in a situation to tell you what the organisation needs to be doing better.
Mm.
People who need their workplace to change aren't necessarily going to be the same people who feel confident to pass that information on. So the more we can do to create that environment, the better. There are always people who are willing to stand up and fight for what's right. So we got to find those people and lean on those people sometimes. I was going to say something about psychological safety. Do you know the term psychological safety?
Please do talk about it. Yes, most important.
So I'm not all that familiar with the term. I really just learned it recently, but when it was explained to me, I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. So really it's how safe every team member feels to voice their opinion or contribute. And if you are doing diversity and inclusion well, then everybody will feel valued and that they can contribute. If you have some people feeling valuable and other people feeling like they're never listened to, that their ideas get put down, that's not psychological safety. And that's not an organisation that is doing diversity and inclusion correctly. Because if you're doing it correctly, if you're inclusive, everyone's ideas are welcome within professional bounds.
Yeah, that is very nicely put. Yes. Fact. And a lot of organizations have to work on it. They are doing a good job. Still, there's still work to be done in this area. How do you think an individual can address, because there is always an expectation, be professional. Oh, it's a very nice term, be professional. What is professional?
Yeah, what does it mean?
What is professional? And how do we be professional at the same time be ourselves?
That is an area where I think most people need to question their definition. We have, I think, in very early stages of rethinking what professional means. And I think it's easier for someone like me that doesn't fit inside the box to feel free to rethink something, because the normal rules never applied to me. So it's easier for me to construct a new norm. But that sort of discussion needs to be collaborative. We need to identify why we have decided that certain things are professional and that certain things are not professional. We need to get input from representatives from every single walk of life, every type of identity, about what they feel should be acceptable at work. Once all that comes together, you can really find the new professional. But that is a lot of work, and I would not expect that to happen overnight. I know it is slowly starting to happen. For example, in a lot of workplaces in Australia, tattoos have been seen as unprofessional, and colouring a certain coloured hair is considered unprofessional, or a certain hairstyle. I remember I had a hairstyle in school, and I never did anything risky with my hair ever again after that, because I was humiliated by the principal. and told that it was inappropriate and to change it immediately. And I was devastated. I just thought I was doing a hairstyle that I thought was cool. But in this person's mind, they're like, no, that doesn't conform to what we've decided you need to look like. So it's so tricky. It's so tricky. And there's so many different parts. So, for example, in the hospital, there are certain ways you need to dress to keep your distance from patients if you're a medical professional, but also to minimize the risk of things like your hair or skin falling onto the patient. So things like that are very important to consider.
Yes.
But you really need to consider if someone has a lot of tattoos, is there anything specific that actually makes that unprofessional? Or is it just a really outdated way of thinking about professionalism? It's really big. It's a lot to think about, and I'm glad that you're asking questions about this, because I would like more people to be thinking about it and talking about it. Because I'll give an example of something that's changed is being able to put your gender pronouns on your social media or on your email signature. So I never thought that would be considered to be professional. And I was so scared the first time I did it. I'm like, oh, what are people going to think? But all these social media platforms rolled it out that you can put your gender pronouns there now. And it turns out the world didn't fall apart from that. You can still be professional and also let people know what your gender is.
Yes. One step.
One step, yes. And that's the only change we've seen in 100 years. Just kidding.
We will get there slowly, steadily.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, for the people that are viewing or listening to your podcast and thinking, hey, I want to reach out to Paige. How does one reach out to you? And also, what are all the areas where you are providing support or guidance?
Yeah. So the best place to go is my website, because it's important to acknowledge that everybody's situation can change. So this is being recorded. So I don't know when people will be listening to it, and I don't know how my life will change by then. So the best place to go is to my website that will have current information about how I can be contacted and what I can be contacted for. Because I am a human being and I have limited resources, limited time, limited emotional capacity. So that will change over time. There are a few people I help with different things. At the moment, all I really have time and energy for is just to have informal chats. That may change again in the future. I have done things like editing gender transition policies for workplaces, providing inclusion feedback on documents, that sort of stuff. I don't have much time and energy for at the moment, but I am planning to get back into that. There are just a few things in life that need to change before I have the capacity for that again. So when you're listening to this, maybe that's now, you don't know. So that's PaigeKrystalWilcox.com. I don't know if you'll put the link. Yep.
It will be flashed. Yes. It was a pleasure, and I think we did run out of the time, but
Yeah.
still, I just love this so much. I want to ask more and more and more. Maybe we should do another one.
We might have to do part 2.
Yes, we need to do part 2.
Slightly different topic.
Yes, we could do that. But before we go, is there anything that you felt I must have, talked about this to career people or so? You can share anything that you feel like.
Gosh, I feel like I have shared so much today, and I can't think of anything extra I'd want to say right now, but I definitely do feel that if we chatted again in a few months or a year or something, I think it would be very interesting to talk about how the situation has changed and what about the situation hasn't changed.
Yeah. Awesome. Amazing. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you too.
I'm so happy to have interviewed you. I wish you a very nice day ahead, and also wishes for whatever you are venturing into.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
I'm really excited about the work that you're doing and the people that you're helping with, and that you've taken chances, and that you're trying to do something that you really believe in. That I'm so excited about for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Paige. Wow, what an episode. I truly enjoyed every single bit of this conversation that I had with Paige, and I'm sure you also found something very interesting to go back to and take away for your personal life or your career, or both. The kind of work environment that is so important in today's scenario, for us to have such a inclusive environment, a safe, psychologically safe environment, as Paige described, is something we should look forward to and work with together, I think. I'm so happy that we had this conversation today with Paige, isn't it? Hope you are liking more of this, and please do remember to like, share and subscribe, and the most important thing is to share your feedback, because that's exactly how we are understanding from each other as to what we can improve and building this community further. Thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day ahead. Signing off from the Glaze Studio, this is Gomathi Sankaran.